We're taking a look at Harmodillo, the new algorithm for the Eventide H9. It is a harmonic tremolo. If you're wondering how a harmonic tremolo differs from a traditional tremolo, essentially, a traditional tremolo is just going to increase and decrease your guitar volume according to a particular LFO wave shape. What a harmonic tremolo does is it splits your signal into two parts using a crossover, and while one signal decreases, say for example the low frequency LFO, the high frequency LFO would raise up, and this gives you a very different flavor to a traditional tremolo. Furthermore, Harmodillo has a set of envelope controls and onboard drive and tone controls. So you can really sculpt this as so much more than just a traditional trem. It's really a dynamic harmonic tremolo, and you can get everything from your classic trem style effects to slicer style effects to almost univibe and ring modulator kind of sounds. So let's dive into it. I do have to say as well with this algorithm, the factory presets that come with it, there's nearly 30 factory presets, and they sound really good. Like just number one, I've been playing around with a whole lot, and cycling through these factory presets is a really great way to understand how all these parameters work. So this one is kind of like the classic harmonic trem sound that verges on sounding like a univibe. What we have control over in the LFO section is the shape. We've got a traditional sine wave shape as well as a fat sine and a fat with a PH sine wave in there. I really like this fat with a PH one. If we just have a listen to a traditional sine wave. I love the way that sounds. You've got control over the depth and the rate, but furthermore, you have these envelope controls in here where you can have the rate and the depth controllable by how hard your guitar, well, how hard you pick, how hot your signal is coming in here. There is an amp section. You can add as much drive as you need here. Well, I say as much drive as you need. You can add some real nice grit in there. That sounds really cool. You've also got a high cut, so you can make that sound really dull. Or you can use the low cut in there to really thin it out. So that's pretty fun for experimental kind of sounds. I'll turn the drive back down over here. So going back to the wave shape, you've got the fat sine, you've got a triangle. You've got ramp up and ramp down. You've also got pulse waves. These are really cool for your slicer style effects. So if you set the depth to 100, you can sync the tempo or the rate to the tempo. For example, if I wanted like a 16th note, where would I have to go for a 16th? There we go. Kind of pulse. We've got a couple of different pulses. I can set the depth right up there and you get this. That is super cool. You've also got control over the crossover point. If you were going for a traditional harmonic trem, somewhere between like 700 hertz and 1000 hertz, which this particular preset defaults to, is really nice. Again, with that fat sine wave. One thing that does happen with a harmonic trem is because you've got crossovers, the crossover slopes become really important. If you increase the crossover slope by turning this X overlap down, you see that you get this kind of big mid scoop, which sounds like this. And you can actually change that so that you get a nice little mid bump in there, which is, I think, a very, very nice feature, something that a traditional harmonic trem will not give you control over. But the thing that really takes this into the classic Eventide zone, a lot of the time Eventide effects aren't, they give you the straightforward stuff, but they give you a bunch of other cool stuff, are these envelope controls. And I love the way these work. For example, if we go back to this pulse wave, let's say, set at pulse 50, we'll set the depth all the way up, and we'll go back so that we are at a 16th note. Say we wanted to have like some kind of pulse thing happening, but where the rate of the pulse changes, like it starts higher and slows down, or it starts slower and speeds up. We can use the envelope, so how hard we're playing. Here, say I set the envelope rate to about 50. Have a listen to what this does. So setting it to negative values means that as I play harder, the initial rate is going to be slower, and then it's going to swell up to the 16th note rate. We can do the same thing with the depth, for example. Say I set my depth at like 50 and I add a bit of envelope depth. This is what we get. So that's really cool for actually creating musically, rhythmically synced slicer style effects in there, which is really, really cool using the different pulse waves, or you've also got these slope waves which give you a kind of similar thing. Let's hear that. Furthermore, let's say I turn the depth off so that we don't have any tremolo effect going on, and this crossover overlap I've got cranked. What I can do, let's say I bring the crossover down to like 200 hertz, and I will turn up the envelope on the crossover. This will give me like a touch wire style effect, because it's going to sweep this like hump in the wherever the crossovers cross over. I could then combine that with a bunch of drive. And then I could, let's go back to that fat with a pH sine wave, and I will add basically a little bit of rate. I'll have my envelope rate just a little bit lower. Same thing with my envelope depth, so that this is going to essentially have control over the rate and the depth and the touch wire, and we got drive. This is the clean signal for reference. let's say I was playing lead and I didn't want as much of that depth on my initial attack, but I want it to kind of swell in, I would just turn the envelope depth down. Have a listen to this. So when I'm playing single notes, you're not going to hear as much of the effect, but when I sit and sustain a note, the effect's going to swell in. And that, I could also do the opposite way around. If I brought down the touch wah crossover and I brought down the frequency overlap, I could sort of do that in reverse. There really are a lot of options going on in this. If you just want a really sweet harmonic tremolo effect, this is going to do it. It's a really nice addition to what we've already got in the H9. But if you want to go nuts and turn this into like a multi-algorithm, which it seems like Eventide are doing with a bunch of their H9 specific effects, like space-time and what was the fuzz one? It should be somewhere over here. I should remember the name of these kind of things. You got your space-time, sculpt, and pitch fuzz. All these specific algorithms, they serve many, many purposes. So if you're not a H9 Max user, it's kind of $20 well spent because it actually does a bunch of other things rather than just the main function. And that seems to be very much at the core of Eventide's philosophy when it comes to designing effects. So it can be as straightforward and simple as you like. It's a great sounding harmonic trem, but if you want to go nuts with it and get creative, you've got all the options in there. I really like it. This is going to come in handy, I think, especially on guitar, bass, and synth when recording. So yeah, there's Harmadillo. If you're a H9 Max user, go and get it. Update your software. If you are a H9 user who's not a Max user, you can also go and get it from their web store. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit subscribe, and I will see you guys around real soon. Thanks for watching.